Hello. So I'm just going to put together the junk journal that's going to be made out of the French book that I previously had a video showing you how to take the text block out. Super simple. Get the text block, slice down either side without going through this spine at the back as best you can. Sort of neaten off and just remove it, and then you're good to go. So I kept the marble inner pages, and I'm going to try and retain them as best I can because I really like those. But this is like an 1800s French book. I've got a front that I'm going to attach. That's going to be my topper. So that's some vintage ledger, some antique lace and antique wallpaper, very old wallpaper, with some little buttons that I've attached on. So that's going to go there at the front and overhang slightly. I want to do this fairly neutral. There's the odd little touch of sort of like a bit of a lavender tone, a bit of lemon tone in there, and that's about as much as I'm going to go, I think. I've got 2 signatures I've put together that are going to go inside, so that's going to bulk it up quite a bit, and then I've got some ephemera to add as well. The signatures, if I don't destroy them, are there are no printables in this. It's all vintage antique paper. So I've got some old French ledger paper, that's 1912. That's some what are you, West Wales District Association of Cooperative Societies. So some old ephemera. I think that one was German. There's some French book page, ledger, some French newspaper knocking about, music paper, a couple of botanical sheets, lots of old correspondence. That's from either 95 or 75. That one's 1894. And I've added just ever so slight lavender tones as the centre and the front pages. Same in this one, we've got really old book pages, as neutral as possible, like 1875, that one, 1908. Let's see a date on that one. But yeah, some really old 1895, some really old papers, but all quite neutral, which I thought was nice. So yeah, so that's going to be the inside. I'm going to attach these in to the centre using some eco-dyed fabric, which I have left. I got this from a seller on Etsy. This is not mine. But I just thought it's actually got the right tones of blue in that piece, I think. I'm going to tear a piece down. Stuart, no, sorry, that's my cat. I'm going to stitch the signatures to a piece of this and then attach it inside. I don't mind if it's going to overhang a little bit, and still show as much of that blue as I can. So that's what I'm up to. So I'm just going to make a little template with which to stitch these in. I've got a piece of paper that I'm going to use. So I want the width to be, my pencil, I'm just going to measure the width of the spine, and that's kind of how long we're going to go, which is just less than a ruler's width. So I'll sort of draw that. I've just had my nails done, and they're quite short this time because they just break otherwise, and I can't pick anything up. It's really annoying. So I'm just going to cut down here ish, and then see how long I want this to be. Oops, stuff's dropping there-ish. So that's going to be the top, and then we'll have a 3 whole pamphlet stitch, I think. And then where's that ruler gone? So this I'll use both as my template to pierce my fabric and also to pierce the signatures. So I'm just going to kind of draw a little line, draw a little line, draw a little line, make sure they look relatively straight. And then let's see if I'm going to have that as my center. I'm going to go just half a centimetre either side of the little dotty that I've made, and that'll be my other signatures, my 2 signatures, if that makes sense. So my 2 signatures will be, oh, that's quite far apart. I wonder if that's going to be too far apart. Oh, they're quite big. Yeah, I'm going to keep it like that. So the dotties either side is where I'm going to pierce the holes, and the one in the middle, I'm obviously going to fold this and then use that to pierce the signatures themselves. So I'm just going to fold this in half. And then you can probably hear Stuart in the background crying because he's crazy. Just grab some book binding stuff. So I have my little book cradle here. Oops. Chucking stuff around. And I'm going to have signature number 1. I'm doing 3 holes rather than just a simple 2 because I've got short pages knocking about, and I need to make sure that I'm going to catch them with more than 1 hole, otherwise they're going to be wibbly wobbly and all over the shop. So I'm just flicking through and making sure that any aren't sort of particularly skew-iff. Use a huge paper clip just to hold them in place. I'm going to pop that in and make my holes. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. I haven't gone very near, oops, the edge of the papers in these because, again, I want to make sure I'm catching as many papers as possible. So I've kept them quite centered into each signature. So that's 1 signature pierced. And then I'm going to do the second. Again, I'm going to make sure we're the right way up. Nothing's too small that it's not going to catch a couple of holes in the signature. Should be okay. And then 1, 2. Pop that in the middle. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's my signatures prepped. Sorry, I knocked you then. The piece of fabric that I'm going to use, I want the bluey tones because I like them, and you'll see the bits on the edge where you're going to glue it down, but you will also see a strip in the middle, so you want it to be a nice fabric. So I'm going to do it sort of, I kind of want that bit. Let me just cut the bit I want, and then let's go there-ish. Yeah, I just liked this deeper bluey colour. So, turn that over, get my little template, and where I put the holes, this is where you need something squishy to pierce into. I mean, antique fabric's not ideal, but never mind. So I'm going to pierce either side, which will pierce through this, and then I can stitch my signatures to the fabric. So I want 1 hole there, 1 hole there, it's about as much measuring as I'll ever do. So I'm just going to make sure they're properly through. It's not so bad when you're only doing 2. The last book I sewed in like this was 10 signatures. That's a pain in the bum. So we want to make sure our first signature we're the right way up, because obviously we need the holes to match. Let's get some thread. 3 times the height of your signature. You'll have seen this 1,000 times. Where's my hole? Where is it? And then I always start with the back signature. I'm not really sure why. I just kind of do. And then straight through. Hold that tail with your thumb. Don't let that go anywhere. And then we can start. So we'll thread that one. And through the bottom. Missed a page there. Don't worry when it bunches up, you can retrieve it, it's fine. It's all good. As long as you make sure you are going through the holes, like I've just not done, that are in a line. So when I come back through that one, and back in the centre, so you're basically doing like a figure of 8. So you're making sure you've gone through the same line. You've not sort of crossed over onto where the second signature is going to go. So that's cool. Take my needle out. Make sure you've got a tail either side of your centre thread. Give that a little pull. Nice and tight. And then tie it off. Double knot to be sure. I'm going to leave that long because I don't know if I might put a little couple of charms on these actually, so I'm not quite that long, but I'm going to leave it fairly long. So that's one. I often then find it easier to just pin my first signature together so the pages aren't sort of flapping and all over and out the way. They're out of the way. So that's that one. So we'll go for our second signature, which is going to be the front signature. And I don't need this piece of fabric anymore, do I? Get my thread back out. 1, 2, 3. The thread I use, this is DMC's thread, knitting and crochet thread it's called. Super soft, nice and strong, and you can wax it quite easily if you want to. I used to use, and still do sometimes use, like proper wax thread like this. But I just prefer this. I find it just a bit kinder to your fabrics. And if you needed to wax it, if there were particularly tough papers you were threading through and you were having a hard time with it, and you wanted it to go through, like, you know, delicate papers, then you could wax it. But I don't really bother anymore, to be honest. I like the cotton. Feels a bit more natural. I said it like that. Right, so that's that signature. So go for the front, start again in the middle, straight through, hold your tail with your thumb, down through the bottom, wiggle it through. I've missed a page. Try that again. There we are. So make sure you've not gone behind, your needle's coming out of another page that you're not intending it to come out of. Back through the top and then through that hole. Always keeping watch on that little tail inside. And through the centre and the centre again. Make sure it's all nice and snug. Not overly tight because you don't want it to do that and properly stretch. Can't pick anything up. double knot, and I've got another longish thread. Take these off, and that's my set of signatures ready to go in. So I can grab my book, pop them in, and you can see they're going to fit in nice and snugly. The pages aren't particularly sticking out, which actually doesn't bother me, but that's fine. You can see just a little peek of the fabric top and bottom, which I like. So I'm going to start with glue in the middle. I'm using my 3-in-1, my Faux-Bratac. It's a bit like Fabri-Tac, but way cheaper. Although it actually isn't anymore. I think they've put the prices up, that I've noticed. So lashings of that, make sure you've got plenty, and make sure you smush. If you don't smush, you might find you've got the glue seeping through, particularly any thin fabrics that you might be using, which is not what you want. So I'm just folding my little flaps in, and I'm going to make sure I'm fairly centered and push down like so. I find my middle. Somewhere there is a middle. I'm just going to use my little doofah just to smush that out. In fact, I can get in with my finger there. And the spine is curved, so it's a little bit more awkward to do. Doing a very good job of this. Take that out again. Pull it back tight. Try that again. Just going to hold it for a second. Sometimes you do have to manipulate them a little bit. Okay, just check the middle. I'm going to pull it too far open because I don't want them to pop back off. So we've got a little bit of cracking at the front there, but thankfully this will hold it down. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to open this out. I don't know how much of that you saw then. I just realised I'm really super zoomed in, aren't I? Right, I'm just going to do that. So that's held in place. And I'm going to let that dry thoroughly. But it's stuck down. You can see it was bunching up in the middle before, which is not what you want. So we've got a little bit of a bunch there where it's a bit longer, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, so that's that. So let me zoom back out. I'm sorry if you didn't see much of that, but I'm rubbish at this still. All these years, still rubbish at this. But that's the signatures in. That's going to be the cover. And then I'm going to get one with some ephemera in the next video. So thanks for sticking with it. This and a few others are going to be up in my Etsy shop this time. Anybody that follows me on Instagram knows that I've been struggling with driving traffic to my coffee shop and noticed a quite dramatic decline in sales. So I think I need to spread my wings a bit further. So I'm going to list some more in my Etsy shop, and sorry, somebody at the door then. So, as I was saying, yeah, I'm going to list this one in my Etsy shop once it's finished. We're going to get on with the ephemera in the next video, and we'll attach the front as well. Yeah, cool. So thanks for sticking with it, and I will see you on the next one. Hello. So we've been making this vintage junk journal out of an old French book. And